good afternoon and good evening to everyone wherever you may be tuning in today's episode from around the globe. We are back on the Rental Journal. I'm incredibly excited to be back in the United States for another Rental Journal campaign across the land of the free, powered by Freedom and Bald Eagles. Recorded live here at the 2026 ARA show in Orlando, Florida. Before we begin, I just want to pass on my sincere gratitude to the American Rental Association for the continued collaboration and for giving us access to this content creator hub here at the show. It's truly a privilege to capture conversations like this for the global rental community, and today's episode is a special one. Today I'm joined by two generational polymaths of the US equipment rental industry, two return guests on the Rental Journal, coming together unchained. They are both leaders who don't operate in one lane, but across sales, leadership, technology, capital, people, and developing rental culture, and who understand how all of these disciplines connect as our industry moves into 2026. Whilst both Josh and Elliot have both been featured on the Rental Journal previously, this is not a recap of their journeys, it's not revisiting old stories. This is an encapsulation of insights and industry pressure tests to challenge the status quo and look towards the future of rental, because the industry that rewarded us in 2022 is not the same industry that we're moving into 2026. And the question for everyone listening is simple: are we actually winning, or are we busy just during the boom? And how we can solidify long-term success as a collective rental community. So, Josh, Elliot, I hope you brought your toothbrush. We made it happen. We're together. Welcome to the Rental Journal.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Excited to be here, man. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you for making the journey. You're appreciated.
Yeah. What an epic introduction, too. I don't think Bald Eagle has ever sounded as cool as when he just said it. I mean, I was like,
that's what
great.
Michael does.
That's great.
He does his research and he makes it awesome.
No, I appreciate you guys, and this is obviously an episode that I've been so looking forward to, because we're all staying in touch and connected even on opposite sides of the world, and the trip doesn't get any shorter, that's for sure.
It does not.
Can't imagine.
Sleeping tablets and coffee definitely gets you back on the right time. But Josh, Elliot, we're sitting here in 2026. The US rental industry has more data, more technology, more capital and more scale than ever before, yet we're also facing tighter margins, higher costs and more competition. For each of you sitting here today, from your perspective, what are the non-negotiable metrics that rental companies must relentlessly protect, not optimize, if they want to win in this next decade?
This question gets asked a lot, and the best answer I ever have for this is it depends. You know, there are some things that always matter. You know, fleet utilization, whether it be physical or financial utilization, what's happening with your people, engagement. I think if your team's not highly engaged, then nothing else really matters. You know, the trash isn't going to get picked up, the equipment's not going to be maintained, so engagement's incredibly important. But there are so many other metrics and things that you can track beyond that, but I don't think they all matter all the time. You know, to give you kind of an example, one of the things that we've been tracking a lot over the last year to help build resilience at Northside is length of contract. You know, traditionally we have had very, very short-term contracts. You know, so our average rental was, 6% of our rentals were less than a day's rent, certainly less than a week, which means that we're very seasonally affected, very news affected, and certainly very weather affected. And so one of the things that we've been tracking very closely is length of rental. How do we do things to get weekly rentals? How do we get more monthly rentals? How do we get more multi-month rentals? Because that gives you a floor. When something goes out for a month or multiple months and it rains one day, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
But if 6% of your business is daily or less and it rains, it's a really bad day and you're really sad, right? That said, you're going to get to a point, or we're going to get to a point where length of rental doesn't matter as much. We have a good length of rental and we want to maintain that length of rental, but we wouldn't be tracking it constantly because it's not a helpful metric anymore. And so I think that with a lot of metrics, the timing matters, your business model matters, the economic environment matters. And so there's a couple stalwarts, but on top of that, it's, what does your business need, and what's measured matters, but what matters differs.
Well, let's dive into the juicy stuff and talk about AI. I recently read that catastrophes always make the news, but incremental progress of the positive kind usually doesn't. And I've also been reading a super interesting book called Machines That Changed Markets, and it's basically the invention of every prominent thing in history, from the steam engine, the light bulb, the mobile phone, and displaying people's first impressions, perceptions of said technology at that time.
Yes.
Which is very, I guess, what it actually wanted to end up being, what that technology ended up being at the end of the day, and how it promoted change in the world. Interestingly enough, it pretty much 100% of the time, there was mass skepticism. Very much influential people around the world tried to terminate the new invention. And even, for example, Blockbuster Video could have purchased Netflix for $100,000.
Yep.
A classic example of did not adopt, stayed analog in the world, and slowly died. So how are you guys actually seeing AI create an advantage in today's rental world? And are we going to get left behind? Are we going to move forward with it? What's your take on it?
I think that there is so much redundancy in the rental business that smart people are looking at what simple tasks can be automated. And what I mean by that is checking out equipment. We do it so much that that's where errors happen. Is there places where you can have something double check contracts? Yeah, you know what? All of those things could be automated to make your rental business run more efficient and more effective, where you're just not making sense. Not only that, but right now, there's incredible routing tools. Like, we don't even think about it. I see drivers and the guy goes out and jumps in his truck. He's like, yeah, I know where this is at. And he goes driving, and what he never did was check to see if the highway was open. And it wastes a massive amount of time. I think that if you take some of those things and you turn it over to AI, if you turn it over to automation, if you turn it over to things like that, you can make your business run more efficient. You know more about this than I do. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I think I'm just going to actually use with some of my friends who make fun of me for putting everything in GPS, even if I'm going places I already know. I mean, like Elliot Vigil said, that's the smarter thing to do because you never know when the road's down.
I do it.
Yeah. AI is amazing and terrible. And to me, it's a lot like, I drive a Tesla, I drive a lot. And 99% of the time now, it is amazing. And it simplifies my commute. And 1% of the time, it's trying to kill me. You know, I think that's the way a lot of technology is. And it often goes in fits and starts, you know, to feel like it's moving really fast, and then it slows way down. You know, I remember we were going to have self-driving cars in 2019, 2020. I remember sitting up here with thought leaders at an ARA show with like Smart Equip and some folks from Rouse, and we were talking about how when vehicles drive themselves and how fast is it going to get to trucks. And I was of the opinion like it's coming, like it's going to be here soon.
Absolutely.
And you know, that was almost 10 years ago now, and we're not here. We're not even to cars yet.
You haven't been to Tucson, and you haven't been to Phoenix, and you haven't been to Vegas.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Austin.
So you have some of those self-driving cars, but it's not anywhere near as fast as we.
You're right. I know what you're
right?
saying, but yeah.
And so I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that we're doing in AI is the same place. It can be a performance enabler. You need to be practicing it. You need to use it. You know, we're empowering all of our team to test and try it. It is certainly something that speeds some stuff up. For example, one of the ways that we're using it right now is creating safety meetings. You know, we've got great tools through the ARA that help us create a safety meeting, but sometimes we want to work on something that happened to us recently.
There it is.
Or sometimes we want to build a training around something that we think is unique to us or that we haven't talked about in a while. Well, I'm not a safety expert, and I don't have a safety expert on my team. But what we can do is we can put somebody who's knowledgeable on there, who's great at writing a great prompt, and say, here's the kind of training we normally make, here's the kind of training we normally do, now in the same style as all of this that we normally use, that is good approved training, and from the perspective of a amazing safety trainer like Kevin Gurn, make me a training for this. And it does it, and it does it really well.
Yeah.
You still have to plan it, and you review it, because 1% of the time, it's gonna try and kill you. But it comes up with great stuff. You know, a software partner of ours, you know, one of the ways that they kind of described AI is allowing you to access things that you already know and know how to access, but it's like having been on 10 cups of coffee and working 24 hours a day.
There it is.
You know, all the data's there, all the information is there, all the knowledge is there, especially if you have put some experience behind it. It's about getting good at pulling that back out. So that you don't have to have 20 years in the industry to be able to look at a financial and time utilization report combined with your missed rentals to decide what you need to purchase that year, that you can actually filter that through something and it gives you some start here. Again, it's going to try and kill you sometime, and it's going to say you need this thing that you don't actually need. But other times, it's going to give you great ideas and a great place to start and a great place to ask questions. It's kind of like a personality test. It's wrong part of the time, but it's a great place to start a conversation.
I agree. That's a great insight, and I think that's it. To loop back exactly what you said is that all those skepticisms and all the things were the people that focused on the 1%, and sometimes maybe a little higher margin of the times that AI is trying to kill us or doesn't know what's going on. You know, I just did a picture about me coming to the ARA, and immediately I showed my daughter the picture, and it has both ARA and Con Expo, and the crazy thing is the little jet, she's like, do you realize all the wings are wrong? Do you realize that this is wrong? And she found everything that was wrong in the picture. And she sat there and she goes, that's the problem with AI, is sometimes it's not doing the right stuff. We're not going to say it's trying to kill you, but yes, it's trying to kill you.
If it made that plane, I mean, don't get in that plane, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be in that plane. But she notices that stuff, and that's exactly what it is. I think that human element is the advantage that we all hold. You opened it up. It was the post I made this morning. Is right now, if everyone has the same equipment, the only thing that's making a difference is the people that are running the business. And the problem is we miss that element. Because guess what's really easy to do? Move levers. You can move a lever any day you want. You know what's hard to do? Change people.
I've been trying to distinguish whether it's a conversation of causation or correlation. Just because firemen show up at fires doesn't mean that firemen cause fires. So I think it feels like companies that are winning with AI aren't outsourcing their thinking, they're sharpening their team's ability to provide an optimized rental experience by removing these tasks like we said. But with your opinion, how can technology act as a coach and a pattern accelerator, not as a replacement of human judgment? That we can fix our weak processes and expose our processes faster, but like we're saying, not removing the human completely from it.
I think that goes back to kind of like the example that we had with the safety. It is utilizing it to be able to skip some steps, to write the complicated email, to do the cursory review of a legal agreement before you take it to your attorney, to help you write a really good product description for your website, to help you comb through a mountain of data about your customers and flag some that might be higher churn. It is, the getting started steps that take so long. A friend of mine is an amazing writer, and she said the hardest part is getting started. It's the first few words, the first few sentences. And as a creative, she would say it's not going to get rid of the creative person. She's out in the audience. It's not going to get rid of the creative person because it's just a starter place. It's not the secret sauce that's in there. It's the place to get started. And using it for things like that helps you skip some steps, but it doesn't replace the human in there.
One thing for you, Josh, and I think you're really key for this one, is how can we balance tradition and innovation? Because tradition and values breeds culture, but stagnant tradition and this unadaptable, this is how we've always done it mindset is probably one of the biggest barriers to process. It stunts growth. You lose a freshness to your brand, and creativity is probably blocked, but we also need to stay rooted in what made us great. Obviously, you come from a family rental business and have this accumulated knowledge over the years. How do you stay fresh in an industry whilst also preserving the true nature of what you learned when you were my age?
I would actually argue I'm probably not the right person to ask that question to. My bias is innovate or die. I love change. I am very comfortable with change. Everybody is not. And you want those people who have more of an accountant's mindset or an operational, we need every box checked mindset. And that is not my mindset. And so I often need people around me to be like, let's slow this down a little bit and create some balance in there. I do think that it is really easy to get stagnant. I think that goes back to what we were talking about in 22 through early 24, people got stagnant.
They did.
Because they weren't changing, they weren't thinking about, oh, well, that's great today, but that's going to end eventually. But it's like everything else. It's a lever. It's a balance. If everybody is, I think it was Warren Buffett. When people are exuberant, you should be scared, and when people are scared, you should be excited. That's when you buy the market. I think that's kind of the way that, as a leader in a business, you need to be looking at it. If something is really easy, well, then it's not going to be at some point. If something is really critical, then it's kind of like balancing your portfolio in the stock market. This is important right now, this isn't, but at some point it's going to be like this. And so even when I'm highlighting, like we did earlier, the length of contract, I'm trying to already think about, okay, once we get that right, what's going to be the next thing, and when or if do I need to go back to length of contract? Do I need to check in on that occasionally? Do I need to build process in so that once a year that metric is checked to see if it goes awry? Or is it a one and done type of metric? And then what are my other things that are out there that are becoming the bigger fire that I need to look at? So I'm trying to think about it strategically, but I do love change, and so I maybe jump in with both feet a little too often.
Well, I think they also say that if you don't fit in, you're in the right room, right? And that's how we approach our rental store as well. We don't look at the bigger players and say, oh, let's copy what they're doing. We actually do reverse benchmarking. Again, looking for that customer that they aren't serving, that we can serve efficiently.
There it is.
Because again, like you said, I don't have $1 billion for HVAC fleet. I wish I did. I probably shouldn't actually, because Dad would be very upset with me. But at the end of the day, why go with the status quo? Because if someone's having success in that arena, look for somewhere that you can nichely serve. And I think that's the way we've always approached it, obviously being in specialty rental, but we're seeing lots of general rental businesses move that way as well. And I think that's how you can balance tradition and innovation, by focusing on one lane.
I agree with that. I think you're exactly right, is that when you sit down and you evaluate it, the tradition needs to be a key thing. You're right that you have to have innovation and change. If you don't evolve, you die. But at the exact same time, I watch companies where they change and innovate so quickly that they don't have a true and consistent brand. So I would ask every one of them, is like, if you just sat there and you said, look, we're a specialty company, we do nothing but HVAC and temp heating and temp air, is if I told you all of a sudden, hey, throw all that stuff away, you need to innovate, there's better money in aerial. Now you could do that, but
You lose that core.
there it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing that everybody has to do, is you have to have that fine balance between it's time to grow and people need to know. They need to know who you are, but you're elevating your skills, your services, your offerings to help their business.
Yeah, I'd say, and a key issue with that too, that I think customers are no longer benchmarking us against our competitors' rental experience. They're benchmarking us against every experience they have. So whether that experience is shaped by Amazon, Walmart, Netflix, Spotify, any consumer experience that they have via a B2C platform is now influencing their B2B expectations.
Wow.
Through this higher speed, this transparency, personalization and ease that they get in their daily lives. So I would say that our customers' personal world is then, influencing their professional lives. And I think a lot of rental companies are intuitively describing this tension but don't know how to label it. And I think it's not a technology shift in itself, it's a psychological shift on how this technology has changed our expectations that we have to provide in rental. But I still think, like we're saying, this authentic human connection is the most paramount part of us to really go forward in this new arena.
That's right. So let me ask you a question on this. You posed a really interesting thought. What is the biggest thing, in your opinion, that the outside influences, your Amazon, your restaurants, your Uber Eats, your everything, what is the environment teaching people that their expectations should be about rental? Negatively or positively? How is it changing our business based on it?
I would describe it, and it's what my
Lauren
dad,
from the audience.
what my dad calls us as the click generation.
Okay.
everything has to be instant. We can't wait. I even had a conversation with one of our contractors. He runs a $50 million shutdown at a power station. And he said, Michael, this year, instead of the large HVAC unit that we have on the boiler floor, I want to have the smaller unit, 6 levels up. I said, oh, Frank, that unit is a specialty unit that we have for certain applications, and there's 3 projects that we're doing in June, and they all overlap. So I can't give you an extra unit this year. And he goes, but I want it. So again, that instantaneous service, the requirement of no is not an answer. So I think, to your question, is we have to adapt because it won't be accepted otherwise.
Well, and I don't think that's new either. I remember when I got into the business in the early 2000s, our website was terrible. We had a website, and I remember my dad being like, we have a website, so like, we're out there. And look at our competitions. Look at our competition's website.
This is the DeLorean.
Like their website's not great. Our website's just as good as their website is. And I was like, yeah, but look at the websites they're used to. And what's sad is I can't remember who the competitor websites are now because like Amazon didn't exist, which is terrifying. But there were websites out there and there were things that people were used to and an experience that people were used to back then. And I wanted people to land on our website and go, oh, this feels right. This feels comfortable. This feels normal. And that's where it goes back to the experience we talked about earlier where I'm not saying that customer who likes to talk to me can't call me every day if they want to. But if they don't want to one day, or if one of their coworkers or one of their project managers doesn't want to and they just want to pop on their phone and check it, I want them to have that option too. Okay. So I want them to be able to do business the way they want to do business, and then I want to find ways to force humanity into it to create the relationship. I almost want to trick them. I want to give them the digital tool that they have and then use that to grab them and pull them out and create a relationship somehow. And how do I do that?
So to wrap us up this afternoon in our conversation, Josh, when you spoke previously to Mark Simonson, you defined success as leading people to their vision of greatness and creating a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. Elliot, in our episode last year, success to you was about discipline, focus, preparation, and relentless reinvestment in yourself and education. Sitting here today in 2026, after everything our industry has been through, after everything you guys have been through, I know it's only been a year for Elliot, it's been a couple of years for Josh. How's your definition of success changed, if at all? And what part of your old definition do you still hold?
For me, it's my personal mission statement, to lead people to greatness and empower them to do it for others. That creates that ripple effect. Lead because I feel like it's something that I am good at. Greatness because it's purposefully ambiguous, because everybody's greatness is different. Both of you probably have different definitions of greatness, and I want you guys to have whatever that is. And then empower them to do it to others so that they have an impact on other people and it's greater than just me. That's my personal mission statement. It has evolved over time, but it hasn't evolved in the last 4 years. But maybe I need to think about that now that you're saying that, and I can improve upon it.
Can you repeat that? Because that should go on a t-shirt. What was it?
To lead people to greatness and empower them to do it for others.
Elliot?
I'm not as cool as Josh. My big one for me is that somebody said to me this past year, they said, no matter what, you're gonna pay the tuition. And I sat there and I thought about it, and he said, here's the thing. He goes, you don't have to go to college. You'll pay the tuition. He goes, you can learn it through mistakes. You can learn it through the school of hard knocks. You can learn it through failure. It may not always be money, but you're gonna pay the tuition. The problem is I realize that most people don't take the time to educate themselves to minimize the negative impact and the tuition that they pay. I watch business owners and they go out and they're like, look, we're just gonna go start a rental shop. And I'm like, do you know what you're doing? And they're like, no, we're just gonna wing it till we make it. It's not a great way to go. I would ask every single person to take the time that if you're gonna pay the tuition, learn from somebody. Ask somebody great questions. Attend events. But if you think you're just gonna do this without a little bit of help, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The information is out there for almost everything if you're willing to open your eyes and your ears and you're willing to learn. And then the last thing I would ask on this is once you make it, help others. Help others. It's what you do. This podcast, you send it out to the world because you're helping others. Josh does what he does because he's always willing to help others. I do what I do because we're always willing to help others. If there's times I don't even get paid, I'm willing to help others. I think that's a good way to be. I think we just need to take the time to realize that it doesn't happen overnight, and you're going to pay the tuition.
Well, to leave everyone with one final framework called the camera theory. Focus on what's important, capture the good, develop from the negatives, and if it doesn't work out, just take another shot. Josh, Elliot, thank you both. Thank you for your time. I've been very excited for this one. Thank you to Lauren and the ARA for this opportunity, and yeah, enjoy the show.
I want that one on a t-shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you send me that one? I'm serious.
Can.
I want the camera one.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.